Hey everyone, welcome back to Arc Encounter. I'm your host Maha, and I'm excited to be on this Arc path with you. Today we have a special VIP, and together we are going to encounter self-care through the lens of community, and of course with our wonderful guide Casey Cox. So let's begin our Arc journey with this video.
Arc is the lifestyle path to better choices. It empowers us to live life to the fullest and paves the way for people like you and me to discover our unique purpose and passion. Choosing to walk the Arc path invites transformation and growth in 5 key areas of life: leadership, communication, mindset, community, and lifestyle. As we dive into these lenses, they redirect our focus and guide us into a deeper understanding of where we're at today and where we're going tomorrow. This is Arc Encounter.
Hey, well, welcome to an Arc Encounter. My name is Casey Cox, and I am your guide today, and we are going to discover self-care through the lens of community. And here's what I love about community is it is impacting you. Whether you acknowledge it or not, the people who are surrounding you are impacting you. They have an effect on you. And so if you're surrounding yourself with people who are choosing self-care, you're more likely to value self-care. In the like line, if you're surrounding yourself with people who are unhealthy, disease-ridden, or just downright grumpy, well, then the case will follow. You might not enjoy the life that you're looking for. So welcome to an Arc Encounter where we are going to look at self-care and choose it. And recognize that when I choose self-care, my community around me has another opportunity to choose it as well. And so through that lens, we are going to go on an amazing journey today with a great VIP. I welcome to the Arc Encounter Meredith Votaw. How are you, Meredith?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, Meredith. Do you have any reason? You know why you're here? I mean, a little bit, right? It's
Yes.
kind of like, why me? Why not somebody else? Well, I want you to know we looked for the most incredible, well-resourced, I'm going to say expert in her field, Meredith. Meredith, tell us what your field is.
I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I have a 4-year-old daughter and I have a 16-month-old son.
And as you have the 4-year-old daughter, 16-month-old son, you're in close quarters.
Yes.
You don't have a nanny.
Correct.
You don't have anybody coming in to do the laundry.
No, that would be me.
That would be you. You have a husband.
I do.
He works
Right.
a lot. I mean, he's dedicated.
Yeah.
He's a great husband.
He is very supportive.
But you kind of have to take care of a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot
Like
of work.
I said, I went out and found the most qualified expert in her field, because her field is her field, not your field. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you don't even like that term. That's not the point of this. It's recognizing that choosing self-care is always a choice. So Meredith, thank you for agreeing to drop the kids off and come over here. We thank my wife for watching the kids. And we say, let's celebrate you. Let's celebrate your VIP. On the Arc Encounter, we like to celebrate people because we believe that you are a VIP. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that when you're changing diapers. It just feels like, oh, I've got to do this again. But as a VIP, you're following your values. You're living into your identity, and you are aiming to make a difference in this world by living out purpose. So I celebrate that with you. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit about your values? What makes you unarguable? Meaning, you have a core conviction, and this is what guides you.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say my values definitely center around my faith. So as a believer in Jesus, being someone of integrity, of generosity, love is a huge value of mine. Kind of my life goal, and like saying do everything in love is what I try and do in life. So I think that kind of guides my day-to-day encounter with my children and husband and friends and family and all those things, and plays into then my identity, which I think comes from my faith again, of knowing that I am so loved, fully, unconditionally loved, which gives me the confidence then that I don't have to be perfect, I don't have to perform, I don't have to, try to get any approval.
So I'm interrupting. Self-care is not about perfection.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh, whew. Self-care gives you permission to show up just as you.
Right.
And self-care meets you on the journey wherever you're at. I just wanted to highlight that those things were in what you just said.
Yeah.
And so what do you imagine is this purpose that you're living out as mom? What is the purpose of mom?
Yeah, I think the purpose of mom is, I'm raising 2 children who are going to eventually be adults and live in the world. And so I think if I can kind of convey and help them to grasp that same realization that they are so loved and valued, and that they have their own purpose and their own journey, and just helping them to kind of raise them up into that, and navigate, learning how to control emotions and how to share things and just all the things that even at a young age you have to learn those things to then when you get older, function well in society and really be a leader. And
Has your 16-month-old found the word mine?
he hasn't yet, but my daughter is teaching him rather quickly.
Rather quickly. That's mine, not yours.
Yes.
It's mine.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly we identify what mine is.
Right.
And how parenting is such an opportunity and joy to be able to teach that there's a good way to communicate and a helpful way to work with others.
Exactly, yeah.
And really that's what leads us into self-care, is recognizing that we need to choose and know how to prepare ourselves for the challenges and the obstacles and the things that are going to face us in the world. And if we don't learn that early, then we can get in trouble.
Right.
And so as you're here as the resident stay-at-home mom, the domestic engineer, the keeper of the castle, and you're going to recognize and you're going to invite us to say, how does self-care work when you're constantly on? And being able to be in that point. And the first thing we do is we acknowledge on our Arc Path journey, no matter where you're at in life, whether you are in charge of millions and millions of dollars every day and you oversee a CEO responsibility, or you are overseeing millions and millions of precious opportunities of love and you're the CEO of your household, you still have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge what is, what isn't. And the choice of perception brings it back through a lens of self-care today to say, what do we acknowledge as a stay-at-home mom? Like, what are the challenges that moms face that I'm out of touch with or was never in touch with?
Yeah, I mean, staying at home is one thing in itself. I think a lot of the world has realized that, like working from home and not really having that differentiation from like work life and personal life. I think that's a challenge in itself. So, being at home a lot of the time with my children, just having to navigate, getting creative with, we're going on a walk, we're going to the park, we're going to a friend's house, we're going to get out of the house. That was always my goal, was every day we're getting out of the house, like in one way or another, whether it's just running to Target or going on a quick walk. Getting out of the house was a huge self-care item for me. As I navigate the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And then, especially with young kids, it's super demanding because they need you for everything. From going to the bathroom to eating to read this book to me, play this with me. And so I think self-care is, I try and engage as much as I can and really pour into my children, but sometimes self-care means, like, in 5 minutes, we're going to do that. Mommy's just going to sit here for a minute. I'm going to take a breath. You guys can play. You can do that. And just recognizing, where I'm at and if I need to take that break and giving myself permission that I'm not a bad mom if I'm not fully engaged all the time or doing these activities with them.
And we could continue through the rest of this Arc Encounter, but if you needed to hear that, go back and watch that again. I'm going to recite some of it. Taking a breath is permissible.
Right.
And being able to tell your children, I'm going to wait 5 minutes because you get to be in charge of choosing self-care.
Right.
And being able to recognize that they're always going to take, not in a negative sense, but they need you.
Right.
And so it's your awareness to acknowledge that they need mom to be at her best constantly. And so you have to make those choices to go on a walk, to get out of the house, to create an environment where that works. And that's really just an echo of an acknowledgement of how do we choose better all the time? In the little walks, taking the deep breaths. These have nothing to do with having kids, but through Meredith's story, we're recognizing that it's drawn attention that when somebody's in your face saying, I need, it's an even more important time to self-heal and to choose the fact because community is demanding. You have a community, don't you? You have are there roles that are being played out in your household?
Are there roles?
Are there roles? I mean, is there a time of day when everybody gets a little bit of time for themselves? Or is there time that everybody needs something now? How does it play out in the community of your house?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question because every day is a little bit different. But
that's an even better answer. So let me take that. Every day is different for you.
Right.
You don't get to just have a routine to say, oh, every day at 8:25, mommy gets self-time.
Right.
And then again at 11:45, you're all going to be quiet. That doesn't work, does it?
No.
So how do you move out of those places into a place of healing, which is the next step on our ARC encounter? It's a recognition that things aren't perfect. It's a process, and it's okay to be in the middle of a process. And when things haven't worked well, we can release that which didn't work before and try something new. Does it sound like you need healing in your house on a regular basis?
Oh yeah, like daily, taking that deep breath and just resetting, restarting. But I also have people around me that are really helpful in that, just some really great friends, particularly a few mom friends, and we have children around the same age. And so they're really helpful, just walking life together, asking those questions together, encouraging each other and reminding each other that it is okay, that struggle that you're going with, or like, oh, I know you blew up at, your child that time, like, that's okay. You know what, they're gonna learn that, maybe we're still learning how to navigate our emotions, and they can learn through that process of, then we have the opportunity to teach them, how to apologize and how to say we're sorry. We messed up and humbling ourselves in that way. And hopefully those are things that they'll pick up as well.
Wow. So you've recognized that in order for healing to really happen, you needed to create another community. And not necessarily create, but find a community of people who can affirm you and come alongside you to go, we got you, we're with you. And so that community is an aspect of a really important value in self-care.
Yes. Yeah.
What happens in that community when somebody doesn't choose to receive self-care or doesn't choose self-care for themselves? How have you seen that play out if somebody's spiraling downward?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's what happens. You spiral downward because, as a stay-at-home mom and with young kids and maybe not sleeping at night, you're not necessarily like at your top game all the time. And so, if you're not taking care of yourself, for even just speaking for myself, like when I know, okay, I need to like talk to my husband and have some time to myself planned out just because, I'm not my best self. I'm like getting more irritable or, counting down the minutes until my husband gets home, or there's just like signs that I recognize in myself of like, okay, I need to take another breath and evaluate where I'm at. And I think recognizing too that that's okay to have those feelings is helpful. And then even like with my kids, I'm honest, and there's sometimes when I'm like, mommy is just frustrated right now. And we talk about that. And
you learn to express your feelings.
Right.
And to communicate what's really going on the inside.
Right.
To help them learn to do the same.
Right, yeah, because I mean, I can't look perfect all the time and be perfect all the time because I don't want them to experience that and then think like that's how they have to be, they can't show emotion or they can't ask questions or, be in a place where they need people to come alongside them to support them.
And I hope you can pick up on this, that self-care isn't self-care doesn't have to be yoga. I'm not saying it's only yoga or it's not yoga, but self-care is simply giving yourself permission to be. To take that deep breath, to be honest, and to communicate in this environment with your children, I'm not okay. And it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
And that's a really valuable part of self-care, is choosing that you're just going to be present in the moment, and then you progress. And Meredith, what I'm hearing you talk about is, so on the ARC encounter, we acknowledge, we heal, we want to restore, and then touch this kingdom experience. But there are hours in the day where you acknowledge and then heal, and then you reach to restore, but then you got to go back and acknowledge, I'm not there yet. So then you heal, you reach for restore, you go back, And it can be just a process. And really what I invite you to recognize is there's nothing wrong with being in the process. What we're aiming for is progress. And progress is where we touch the restoration, where we know that, you know what, I did this better today than I did 3 weeks ago. I am feeling more confident now than I ever have before. That's progress. And so, Meredith, you've had 2 kids. What have you learned from the first to the second? And have you forgiven yourself for screwing up before?
I mean, I think one thing is this, kids are so different. So even if I figured it all out or felt like I figured it out with my daughter, my son is completely the opposite of her. And so things that worked with her or, you know, it doesn't work with him. He just responds differently. So I think just, again, taking it one day at a time and just recognizing that they're different people. What are their gifts? What are things, you know, that I can help draw out of them? And it's a fun process, though it is obviously challenging and exhausting at times. But it's something, you know, that I appreciate having too, and learning those new just ways of navigating with them, and even just the dynamic of 2, like talking about sharing and taking.
Yeah, you're
turns
outnumbered.
Yeah.
You're definitely outnumbered. They're going to tag team you and win. Tell me, in that restoration concept, where do you go to be restored? What is restorative to you in your current role, in your current experience? What does that look like to go, okay, look, I acknowledged I needed something. When is he coming home? I take a deep breath. I'm ready now, and I'm ready to reach for restoration. What does restoration look like for you, just as an individual, not maybe for everybody, but for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it kind of depends on where I'm at in that, like, I'm losing my mind stage. But, you know, most of the time it's like when my husband gets home, we'll have dinner together, and then it'll be like, I'm going to go away for the evening. You can put the kids to bed. And he's really great about supporting me and giving me that space. Sometimes I hide away in our bedroom, and I read scripture or listen to music or just lay on the bed and just enjoy the peace and quiet. But it can't always be that. Like some days, if my husband has evening events and things he has to do, then it's like, okay, tonight we're going to walk to In-N-Out, and I'm not making dinner. We're going to get outside, and we're going to have somebody else provide dinner for us.
Because eating out can be self-care, can't it?
Right. Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
Practically, I remember I'm hearing my wife's voice in there. I don't want to cook dinner again. Right. I want to go out. Okay, we'll figure that out. What can we afford? And then we make that choice.
Right.
So community as restorative, talk to me about that. Give me a little bit on choosing self-care and the role that community, I know you kind of talked about the moms. As we put that in is just the acknowledging and healing, how has community come around you to help you restore?
That's a good question too. Yeah, I think just being in those spaces with friends, even with our kids, and navigating, like, I'm really struggling with this, my son is doing this, and my daughter never did, and then you can bounce those things off other moms, and they're like, oh my gosh, my son did that, and it's just helpful and reassuring and affirming that I'm not crazy, my kids aren't crazy, it's a normal thing that we get to work through, and they have ideas that are helpful, and other things that I can tell them that are helpful, and we just kind of it's kind of like, a big family in a way of working together, raising our kids together in a way that is God honoring, that's really helping them be who they're created to be.
You're good. I'm going to add, I'm prepping you for, I want to talk about shame and self-care. So okay. I'm prepping you for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you about shame and self-care. And what I'm realizing as we engage this topic of self-care, and you can watch other encounters on self-care, a lot of people talk about fear of what could happen actually motivates them to self-care. But I think in the topic of being at home, shame can creep in there, like I'm a bad mom if I do something wrong, or I'm a bad mom if I take time for myself. I loved how you just said, hey, I'm 5 minutes. But some might see that as selfish or having shame that they're not a good mom. Talk to me if you can. Where does that come up? Is it real? Am I making it up? And I don't even know what do you have to say on that topic?
Yeah, I have a lot to say.
Lead us.
I kind of tend to be a giver by nature.
Okay.
And so, serving, giving, is kind of like that's natural to me. So being a mom in a way is very, I love it because I get to pour into them and get to do all those things. But with that also comes like, I'm not very good typically about asking for help, or I hadn't been until I had children of my own. And then you realize that you reach that place of like, I am falling apart, and I have to take, time. But it's hard because you do, you see around you. If you're not, my community is really great, and we're really open and honest kind of about our life and the mess and all that stuff. But if you look on Facebook, you see everyone's lives are perfect and they're doing all these things with their kids, and so it's easy to think that you're not enough, that you're not doing enough, like where that kind of shame piece comes in, where it is okay to say, like, we're not going to do that because I just can't handle it today. And so recognizing where I'm at, and not allowing that voice of shame to get in, because it definitely tries, a lot to tell me that I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing the right things, or my children would be better if X, Y, Z. So it's definitely a real thing.
Well, thank you for confronting any of the voices of shame that would have prevented you from being here today. And you have demonstrated very well that there is a path of parenting that fits in with self-care. And it's really valuing who you are in order to value who your children are. And it leads us to a kingdom celebration. And when we talk about the kingdom, it's this sense of understanding you have purpose. And I love that parenting can be on purpose, and you can parent on purpose. And I invite you, whether you have children or not, to reach for something that just fills you with a sense of abundance and victory in a way that you go, wow, to really be unarguable, unshakable, undeniable in the world. Wow, is that possible? And I believe it is possible. And so, Meredith, if you were to paint a picture of you as mom, being undeniable, unshakable, unarguable, what's the party? What's the place? What's the thank you that your kids might give to you? Gee, Mom, you've done such an amazing job. And what might they say? What might they point to? I don't know. I know I'm pushing you on this one.
I know.
This is still in the future. So your 16-month-old isn't going to tell you thank you for anything at this point, except maybe a food with a smile.
Right.
But at some point, you get the opportunity to look back and go, you know what? It was good to take choices of self-care. I did it right to find a community around me and to give my children community. Now we're having a party in 10 years.
Okay.
It's a party. We're celebrating. What's the celebration of choosing self-care in such a way? How would you see it play out for your kids?
I think just if they recognize like their own value and worth, and recognizing that they will face struggles and they will have times of like, I don't know what to do, I feel like I'm falling apart, but that they're willing to ask me or ask others, have community around them to help them navigate that. And if they can grow up feeling comfortable and confident in who they are, and still having those struggles, but working through them in a way where they're taking care of themselves and not pushing themselves too hard, or feeling like they have to be perfect or performing or earning that approval. I think that would be a great party.
That would be an amazing party. And I invite you, if you haven't had that party yet, where life is not about being perfect or performing, or maybe you've never felt a community come around you and kind of go, we got you. It's okay. That's what we invite you to find on the ARC path, is to walk along people, to build that community and say, we want to be more connected. So come join us on an ARC path journey. We're building community, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Meredith, for contributing in on self-care and the choices that we have to make. Here's Maha to invite you to make a few more choices about your journey on the ARC path.
Well, I'm so glad Meredith came in today and reminded us that self-care can look differently for everyone. Casey mentioned earlier that it doesn't have to be yoga or facials, but it's about creating that space or a community that allows you to reset so that you can be your healthiest and your best self. If you'd like to check out more videos, I invite you to visit arcpath.com. Our social media at ArcPath. We also have courses that you can find on our app, Circles Now. And we have these fun podcast sessions created by Casey Cox and Bernard Bashira. I'm your host, Maha. It's been a pleasure to be with you. We'll see you next time on ARC Encounter.